Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Outliers YouTube channel and our program, Get to Know. I'm your host, DP Lyle, and I'm here with my cohort in crime, Kathleen Antrim.
Cohort, that is, I don't know, does that mean I plan the crimes? I just
Pretty
help
much,
execute them?
pretty much.
Well, thank you. I'm really excited today because we're changing it up a little bit. We've got a fabulous guest. She's basically in charge of all things literary in Southern California. I think her influence even throws up north. And she's got a podcast called Character Floss, and she runs the program Lit Up in the OC, which is a literary salon. Welcome, Maddie Margarita.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me.
It's so fun to have you. You know, I've heard that you have all the inside scoop on everything.
Oh, it's going to be that kind of podcast.
Right. Well,
here we go.
If we can go there.
I have to admit, I don't have all the scoop.
But most of them.
Yeah, but I do have a wide range of friends and authors, and we do have a tendency to dig into things other than writing and craft. So a few secrets here and there.
I love it. Well, I have a question that I pretty much asked everybody on the show, and so you don't get to escape it either. Feel free to lay down on a couch if you'd like to. I'd like to ask you about your childhood and what kind of a childhood you had. Were you an introvert? Were you an extrovert? Did you have imaginary friends? And do you think that your childhood led you to go into the literary world and writing and all of this craziness?
Did I have like a momentary look of panic on my face when you said, "Tell us about your childhood"?
You masked it well.
Deer in headlights would cover it, yes.
I had a diverse childhood in that I grew up in a tribe. We had 5 kids. My dad was an Army colonel. So I grew up as an Army brat. I was at the younger end of the family. My brothers were in Guam with my parents. When my dad was laying a pipeline between our cable between Guam and Saipan. So they were actually on the island with them.
Wow.
And so I kind of came along when my dad was the base commandant at Fort Huachuca in Arizona, in Tucson. So yeah, so I grew up as an Army brat, and I had 2 wild older brothers, one who broke a baseball bat over my head when I was 7, and then got mad at me because I told on him. So I learned early that snitches get stitches. And so I was pretty well socialized, but we were a tribe. So I grew up without a lot of outside friends. I had my family, my sisters, my brothers, and then we moved together as a tribe. So we kind of stayed close.
Sure.
But and we competed a lot for airspace at the table. So I think we learned how to tell stories. Yeah, because if you couldn't tell a good story, nobody talked to you at the table. Somebody talked over you. So I think that's where that came in. Plus a good 12 years of parochial school. I can't add. Well, I can add, but the other stuff not so much. But I can write.
So are you recovering from parochial school?
I am like the worst. I'm the worst. I'm like one of those. It's sort of stuck. A lot of things stuck, but a lot of things didn't. Yeah, I was a rebel. But
did you have imaginary friends by chance?
I did.
What were their names?
As well, I had one. Her name was Enchantra, and she came from Star Trek.
Oh,
so yes. So she was a semi-alien being with kind of a Jetson-like tunic and the bouffant and everything. So yes, she was my imaginary friend.
Was she your size or was she little?
No, she was my size.
She was your size. Okay. Yes. My daughter Taylor had an imaginary friend named Connor. And I keep thinking she's going to end up being a writer eventually. And she carried Connor around in her hand.
Oh, I think that's such, well, and I'm a Gemini, so I think that's indication of that alter ego, because I'm definitely light and dark at the same
Sure.
time.
Aren't we all?
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
when did you
Shakespeare.
finally sit down and decide, hey, I'm going to put pen to paper and I'm going to create something worthy literary wise and see what happens there? What age were you when you started that, and what was it?
Well, I think I my dad moved away. He was in New York for a while when we were still in Tucson, and I would write him letters about how I wanted to raise collies and how I would. I don't know if it was half business plan, half short story about what the collies would look like and how. And then I went to Pomeranians because they were fluffier. And so I would send him letters. So I think that's part of it. And then I went on to a career of I was a headhunter recruiter. So then my next attempt at fiction was writing resumes.
Which is
I was
fiction most of the time, yes.
I was the Danielle Steele of resume writing. If anybody had trouble with a resume, their resume landed on my desk. And then so we sold our company. We built a staffing company and sold it, and I retired to take care of my parents. So
Wow.
when I was doing that, I started writing. I was reading a lot of Janet Ivanovich, and damn her, she could not write fast enough. So I started thinking, okay, well, I can amuse myself. I've been amusing myself for many years. So I think I was probably 40, 30, 35, 40 when I actually sat down and said, I want to do something that I'm coherently putting on paper. So yeah.
Very cool.
Second
Tell
life.
tell us about Lit Up.
Well, Lit Up is currently a like a writing salon, and it grew out of my critique group, where we had a lot of really good writers who were independently published but didn't know how to market, and didn't have the I don't know if it's that they weren't extroverts or if they just didn't have the will or confidence to promote their own stuff, their own work. So I was like, well, I can do that. So we started a coffee shop, and I just love the idea of hearing writers wrote in the way that they intended it to be heard and how they first heard it in their head. Because anybody who's ever heard audiobooks knows that an author or an actor can interpret your work and have it be something totally different than you ever expected it to be. So I just love the idea of writers reading their own work and then getting some feedback. Seeing how it landed on people who read, people who write, talking about it, learning, inspiring people, getting them out in the world. And I did that for 10 years, probably until COVID. And then we kind of fell apart. We went online, and like everybody else, now we're starting to try and get back online. I did keep it up quarterly. I do Lit Up online at the Museum Cultural Center, Anaheim.
Cool.
So yeah, I still do that. And now I have a lot of other outside writerly responsibilities. I have president of Sisters in Crime Orange County, vice president of Southern California Writers Association. So those things take up time, but next year when my reign is over in Sisters in Crime, I want to get back full time to Lit Up. So that was a very long answer to a very succinct question.
Lit Up is fantastic, and basically you go to the coffee shop and they put you up front, and then Maddie grills you. You have to read a chapter or a few pages, and then she starts grilling you with personal questions. But it is fun. It's fun. And then the audience gets to ask questions, and it's a great place for people. And I think, as you pointed out, people who are a little shy to get out there and promote their work. It's a great venue because it's very comfortable, and you get to compete with people ordering donuts and coffee at the same time, which is great.
That's a life skill.
Good practice.
Exactly.
And
so you teach them everything.
Yeah, really. Tell us about character floss.
Well, character floss is kind of on a hiatus. That's a little bit of it's a little deeper than uh, anything I've done. It's a long form.
Mhm.
I love. People say short form is the way to go. I don't, I can't. I don't even do Twitter. My life is not 120 characters, but it's long form, and it's more about the psych writing. And I remember one particular podcast with a writer by the name of DP Lyle, where we went into psychopaths and ways to kill people and how dark do you have to be to kill someone? And we both agreed you don't have to, because anybody can kill anybody. So you just have to be in the right situation.
All your favorite topics.
All my favorite. Death,
Exactly.
murder, yeah, psychopaths. But it really is about helping the writer connect. And that's really when I'm interviewing, that's my goal, is to showcase the writer and find ways that they can, anybody can go on and be the smartest person in the room or have the greatest plot or have a really kick-ass character. But if people don't like it, can't get your idea across in a likable fashion, they're not going to buy your.
That's
So
so
that's always
true.
that's always my goal. So if somebody's telling me too much about the book, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm feeling that eyes glazing over, getting into a little bit about like that question you asked me. If I don't get that look at least once or twice, I'm disappointed. Oh my God. Oh my God. But I want it to be revelatory.
Well,
Yeah.
you gravitated towards short fiction, and obviously have some short stories published and all that. What did you find attractive about that versus more long fiction? And have you dabbled into the long fiction world, and or you have anything in the works there?
Yes, and I
That's
do.
a big question.
Everybody does. But I like short stories because my expectations are more realistic. I'm aware that I have a short window to get what I want to say done. I have to be clear on what it is that I want to do in 3,500 words. So,
Right.
and I get that sense of satisfaction. I actually reach the end. So when you're writing novels, it's like, okay, where is it? And it's not there because I have to write it over, or I'm editing it, or this is lackluster, so I have to go in. It's bring me to death. So I think short stories do that for me. But yeah, I have two. I have one novel that's percolating, marinating my drawer, and then I'm working on another novel. But I can't approach and say, I'm going to write a story about X. Like, I'm going to write a story about X, and this is what I really want to say. So so then I'm like, okay, I have to be clear on what I want to say. I have to be clear on how I want to say it. And because it's me, it also has to have an element of humor. Whether it's usually some is, more humorous than others, but then some of those things come around and hopefully they ask you reading it, and then you're like, oh, I get it. But it takes a long time to sit down and write it. And after parochial schools, nuns were always like, write it over. What you gave me the third time you did it was your first draft. Write it over. Make it more concise. Make it more interesting. So that's what I'm constantly doing. I think I heard Dean Koontz once that writes building a coral reef. His writing style, it's like building a coral reef. Every time he picks up a piece, he goes back, reads what he wrote, he writes that, and then goes forward. That's kind of the way I write.
Cool.
Writing is definitely not for the faint of heart.
No.
And I'm sure with the literary salons and such, I would expect, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you would encounter a number of people who think that if they can write an email, they can write a book.
But it's funny. I think That's a small percentage.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
think most writers are very self-conscious. Because on some level, either they've heard or they've realized that when you read your writing, they learn a lot about you from your writing. Not even
Sure.
meeting you, they know what's important to you, write about it,
Mhm.
your point of view, how you view the world. Are
Yeah.
you see details? Do you not see details? So you know a lot about a person before you meet them. And I think once you realize that, and the paralyzing, that's a paralytic factor for me.
Mhm.
I don't know how much
Yeah.
I want people to know. But it's true. And then, being out with so many really good writers out there, I don't want to publish something that I am not proud of.
Very true.
So, and it's not as if I'm going to publish something and only my family's going to read it. Hopefully my family and maybe 3 or 4 friends will read it. These 3 or 4 friends are probably writers.
Mhm, mhm.
So, and they're going to have their own expectations of something. Sounds like know what they're talking. What's going to come out of something that they. So
Right, right. Yeah, the bar is set high when
yes,
your colleagues are reading your work.
right.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And it's always interesting in teaching writing. Um, I know Doug encourages as well, is that you don't want to just publish the very first thing that you've written with no edits, etc., because you could never pull it back. And as you learn more, you start to realize how bad that first draft really was. And it's tough because people get very excited about getting published, but that's really not the end goal. The end goal to me is the journey, quite
Quality product,
frankly.
right. Becoming a good writer, a quality product that you're happy with. And Janet Ivanovich, if you're out there, I'm sorry. But I noticed, or tend to notice, maybe their first 2 or 3 books, even in my favorite writers, are not the same as their end. And you do see their writing styles change, and it's not maybe that it's better, it's just so. And what you do on your first book, on your freshman effort, may have taken 10 years, 8, 5 years.
Mhm.
Then you get that second book in a year, and it's hang on. So
Right.
that
And
sophomore effort is tough.
yeah, you don't want to learn in public.
That's a
Yeah.
nightmare, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think
So-
that's true. Some writers get better as they write more and more
Right.
books, and then some. I'm not sure what the right word is. Not lazy. Then they write worse books as they get later on in their career. Now that may be because they're getting bored with it. It may be because they're under a deadline and they don't have time, as you mentioned, to
I think
really
that's
hammer it out perfectly so that they're really satisfied with. I mean, there's a million reasons, but you find it both ways. Sometimes people age like good wine, and some people, sour like vinegar. And I've seen both of it. I'm sure you have many, many times.
And there are people who are just born prolific writers, who have wellspring of ideas that just spew from their every pore, and have no problem coming up with something that they're excited to write. Like Doug.
Well, I don't know.
You're a great example
I have
of
my
that.
struggles too, but yeah. But
I mean, I love that myself, some Jake Longman. So, but to find the right situation and the right counterpoints and all the things to make everything come together in a humorous and entertaining fashion, is you make it look easy, Doug. That comes naturally, I think, to you.
well,
But to
I'm
other people,
naturally goofy, so there's that. But yeah,
but
but yeah,
it's very
and then
hard.
you got to have a down and dirty murder in the middle of all of that. And
yeah,
but
a murder
they
can be
call it
fun.
gallows humor or dark humor, but everything's funny if you give it a chance.
That's true. I have on a panel at Pasadena Lit next weekend, and there I looked at the station at the Mountain View Mausoleum in Altadena, and I was thinking, I've never been on a panel in a mausoleum before, but writers will do what writers are going to do. You get people there even if they're above ground, below ground, they're going to come and they're going to talk about their writing. So yeah.
Well, if the people below ground start weighing in, run away.
I did on the promo have the nerve to put "are dying to get in." Like, so get there early. I don't know if everybody thought that was funny, but I thought that was hilarious.
I think it's hilarious.
And that's what matters, as long as you're amusing yourself, you know.
Well, tell us a little bit about the Southern California Writers Association, because you've been the heartbeat of that thing for a long, long, long time. How many members are there now? And other than the monthly meetings, what else kind of stuff, programs does it offer? And can anybody join? I mean, do they have to be in Southern California?
Well, no. Yes and no. Anybody can join, and no, you don't have to be in Southern California. I may be the heartbeat, but Larry Porcelli is the soul.
Yeah.
He's our president. He keeps everybody going and laughing.
And he's so dynamic. Yeah.
Yes. And so many writers groups got hit during COVID, going online and then trying to convince people that it's also fun to be here. So trying to get people out of their jammies there somewhere. And there was so much content that was loaded, so much digital content during that time that people got spoiled and jaded, and they think that they are there just to hear the writers, but it's more than that. There's much more than that personal contact, the networking, and we are back up to about 60 people at our meetings. We meet once a month. And we are gone to a hybrid format. We video them and in person. So can't make it, or you're in a remote location, still enjoy the meetings. You can enjoy the speaker, but it's not the same as being there in person and getting to meet other writers and hearing about things that you had no idea about. So it's fun. We also have lots of interview programs. We do workshops, craft related. We do publishing workshops, because we have maybe 20%, 30% legacy published, and then the rest are independently published or soon to be published or wanting to be. So the craft of writing is important. If you don't have a quality product, it doesn't matter how you sell it. But if you have a quality product and nobody reads it, be falling in the woods thing. So we also do a lot of programs on how to get the word out, how to format your books, where to get covers, cover art, things like that.
That is so cool, because so many people want to write and they don't know where to go to learn. Because when you're first starting out, typically you don't know anybody in publishing or even other writers. So, you need to learn, but you don't know where to go. So it's fantastic that you have such a strong organization that offers all these different programs.
And I think what you're saying, Kathleen, is true. I mean, people, hopefully people are always learning. That's the killer when you're not. And when you're first writing, you don't know what you don't know.
Right. You don't even know what to ask. Yeah.
Like dialogue. Oh, all the he said, she says, and like, no, you're supposed to write dialogue, so you don't need attribution.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a concept. Now I have to go back and rewrite my book. So those kinds of things are important. And I think what forms you as a writer, and that's one of the reasons I love it. Because I interview everybody. Mm-hmm. People are saying, would you really interview that person? I'm like, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The more wild, the more out there, the more I want to talk to that person. Sure. And whatever they write, and it may not be how I see myself, but if you don't open your mind and put yourself in a situation outside of your bubble, mm-hmm. and challenge what you think you know, or what you think you might, or what you think. Life can be very long these days.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And when Doug and I were starting Outliers, the writing school, one of the things that we talked about was making sure it was a home to thought leaders and creatives, because of the fact that I think that, and I know Doug thinks this way as well, because we've discussed it, that all writers are thought leaders. And whether you're talking about history or the future or writing about current day, you're projecting and talking about our culture or the way the culture was, and trying to learn from those experiences and convey that out into the world. And I think that you're absolutely right. You have to keep an open mind, because that is how you learn. And writers, whether they mean to or not, are always teaching us something.
And that's true. And keeping the open mind and broadening your perspective can only make your writing better.
Absolutely.
The more open you are, the more you understand where other people are coming from and the lenses that they view your writing through. It only should be able to help you get the message across, whatever that message is. So, and I think that it's really inspiring when I interview people who kind of go out on the edge, how brave they are. I admire bravery. I admire, people who go out and say what they say, or what they feel and what they believe, regardless of the consequences. I'm right there with you.
Who are willing to be vulnerable on the page.
Yeah. And I mean, this is a tough on what you write, and finding outlets and places where you can be safe and be out there and know that it's an opportunity to talk about what you write is great. That's why I do what I do.
Yeah. So how would so you still have Lit Up going on, and so how would somebody get involved in that if they want to get involved, or how would they contact you?
They can contact me at my email, which is very secret and very complex. It's maddiemargarita@gmail.com.
Okay.
And it's Maddie, Maddie, not Maddy.
And Margarita like the drink. Yes.
Margarita like the drink. But if you enter Maddy Margarita, you get a whole other start.
Oh,
so
gotcha.
Sure.
Okay.
That's my competition on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Definitely DDIE.
Definitely DDIE. I was in a library once, and the librarian typed that in, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know that. So now I'm very careful to say it's Maddie.
That's hilarious. All right.
And
that's great.
I also do the Southern California Writers Association Hump Day book tour. We're on hiatus until the summer, but that's a weekly 15-minute bookshop. So anybody wants to talk about their work and get on there, it's the same thing. Maddie Margarita, send me a note. You'd like to be interested in the Hump Day. That's 15 minutes. That's digital. You can be anywhere.
Fabulous. Fantastic. You're such a great resource for writers, and I just applaud you for all you do to help bring others along. Maddie Margarita, it's been fantastic having you. We've got to have you back. I think you should be a regular, because you're an amazing resource and so knowledgeable. And thank you so much for being with us today. Great interview. Throw it back to you, Doug.
Yeah, Maddie, thank you. I'll see you soon, I know. And it's great having you here. And, I'll speak for all the writers here in especially in Orange County, but in all of Southern California. What you do, I've told you this before, and I don't want to embarrass you here in front of the world, but you do yeoman's work for all of the writers out there, because everybody knows they can contact you and find out what's going on and find out what to do next and all of these things. And I think that's come across here. And I just wanted people to get to know you. And besides, you're goofy and crazy and funny and smart and witty. And that's why we wanted you on here.
Thank you. And coming from you, I take that as an extreme compliment. And thank you both for inviting me. It's weird for me to be on this side of the interview. I'm a little sweaty, but this was really fun, and I really appreciate it.
You're a fantastic interview. We've definitely got to have you back. I mean, you're wonderful. So thank you so much.
So that wraps up this episode of Get to Know here on the Outliers YouTube channel. So we'll be back, of course, with more interviews. And so until then, keep writing.